This video is brought to you by Crushin, the safe, secure, totally anonymous chat app. Download today on the iOS and Android app stores.
What's going on, folks? Welcome back to dLifeHD. This is Victor, and if you haven't already watched it, we did a long-form episode on the history of the 3DS. It was really fun. Me and Sam sat down and just talked about a lot of our memories with it, and I highly recommend you go back and check that out. And today we have a second addition to this series that we've started, being more long, drawn-out episodes around an hour in length, and we are going to be discussing Monster Hunter in general, more focused on Rise, and we have a very special guest on to discuss it, and that is SuperRAD. So do you want to introduce yourself, SuperRAD?
Hello, I'm SuperRAD. I make history videos on YouTube, mostly about Monster Hunter and other Monster Hunter content on Twitch and stuff that you can check out.
Yeah, it's been really fun to get to know you and watch all of your history videos. I know that I am a fan of the franchise, but I'm not necessarily in tune to all of the history and the details of where Monster Hunter has come from. And so sitting down and checking out your content has been a joy for me, and I've really enjoyed that. And we are also joined by Sam as well, sitting down with us, who is a newbie to the Monster Hunter franchise. So we have a good, diverse lineup here. Somebody who is an expert on the history of Monster Hunter. Me, myself, who is a big fan. And then Sam, who is new to the franchise. So moving along here as we get into this long form discussion, SuperRAD, you mentioned just briefly about your YouTube channel, but do you want to tell us about maybe how you got started discussing not just Monster Hunter, but everything you do on your channel and Twitch? Like what inspired you to get started with that?
Yeah, sure. I originally was working an office job, like maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, and I wanted to get into Twitch streaming. So YouTube wasn't even a factor at that time, and so I was just doing random Twitch streams. I built a schedule, and I learned how to do that better. And I was mostly streaming Fire Emblem Heroes constantly, or consistently. And I was growing like a little slowly, steadily but slowly. And eventually I decided to quit my job and go back to university. So I felt like I didn't have enough time to do content creation. Also within that time, I tried to make some new YouTube content to see what that would be like. I made 2 history videos, one on the history of Marth from Fire Emblem and one on Ike from Fire Emblem. And then I quit after that because of school. And I guess during the summer leading into my 3rd year, I wanted to get back into content creation because I like it. And I was looking for something else to cover because I didn't really like covering Fire Emblem that much. And so I decided to try doing a history series on Monster Hunter because my kind of thing was doing history series, and I really liked Monster Hunter, and I wanted to learn more about it anyway. So I was like, okay, this will be a good trial run. And then so yeah, during the summer I ended up making my first couple history videos of the mainline series. Ended up finishing that. I can't remember when I finished it. Maybe like before school started or just as school was starting for the year. And then I moved into some more Monster Hunter content after that. I only recently got back into Twitch streaming. I can't remember what made me do it. I think I hit 10,000 subs on YouTube, so I was going to do a celebratory stream, which went much better than I thought it was going to. So I figured I might as well look into doing it more regularly because it's a lot of fun, and it's been going pretty well so far. So that's been nice.
Yeah, that's awesome. And also, I guess I know the way that I found you is the YouTube algorithm just going crazy with the announcement of Rise, and me just trying to find all these creators that I would enjoy to get hyped up for this game. And so I stumbled across your channel in that way. And so that's really, I mean, I'm not going to fully credit just a game launch to the success of your channel. You've put so much thought and care into all your videos, and that's something that I can appreciate, and I'm really happy to see that growth in your channel and on Twitch too as well.
Thanks.
I mean, Sam does streaming, and I know that's something that can be very difficult, especially to set up that schedule and be constantly engaged, because it's something where you do have that live chat. You have any thoughts on that, Sam?
It's very difficult. Especially because you're interacting with folks, live and not just in your comments section. And people, I don't know, I think there's a lot more trolls on Twitch than on YouTube, in my experience.
Oh, you'd be surprised. There's some awful people on YouTube and on Twitter, especially.
There's awful people everywhere.
Yeah, Twitter
Yeah,
for sure.
I think
But definitely, people will... The thing on Twitch is if you're streaming a big game, you're definitely going to run into trolls. But if you're streaming a small game and you're like one of the only streamers for that category, then you're definitely going to see people just popping in to say stuff. And I don't know, either one has its trolls, but Twitch is... people can troll you while you're live, so...
Yeah.
And they can affect your content on screen a lot of times, too.
it's definitely beneficial to have moderation. I only have one dedicated mod in my community at the moment, Mr. Janky, who's a real life friend of mine. And as we're growing, I'm thinking about getting a second moderator to, just in case this kind of stuff happens. We haven't had any issues so much. No real trolling or spamming so far. I think it's mostly because most of the people that are watching my channel are people that are part of my community, so it hasn't been too bad lately. I've definitely experienced trolls on Twitch before, for sure, but it's never been too bad for me.
That's good to hear. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's because lately you've been streaming Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate, which is kind of a cult following game, I guess. So the main people that are wanting to tune into that are people who are legit and really want to watch the content and are not there to just be a jerk.
Oh yeah, and I'm playing it on 60 FPS with HD textures. It looks amazing. It's one of the best looking Monster Hunter games in my opinion.
Yeah, me too. I honestly, first they took a more cartoony approach with Generations Ultimate and on the Switch, and I definitely prefer the look of 3 Ultimate, and I wish that they would do sort of the Resident Evil treatment that they've treated with the Switch and everything else, and just give HD textures to all those games, all those older Monster Hunter games, and put them on the Switch, because I would replay them. Yeah,
I've seen a lot of people asking for Monster Hunter collections lately. Those games are really big, so I don't know. It'd be interesting to see them put those on a collection, especially on a flash card. I'm wondering how that would work, but
yeah, that's true. I mean, I would pay $60 for 3 Ultimate again. I own it. I own it digitally on a 3DS, physically on a 3DS, physically for Wii U. I have the Tri version for Wii. I don't have portable third, but I have just so many different versions of that third generation.
I definitely think 3 Ultimate would benefit. I think 3 Ultimate and 4 Ultimate would benefit from a Switch release. Maybe.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, seeing 4 on a TV would be amazing.
Yeah,
honestly.
Because even with ways to make it run faster and with HD textures, it still has a couple 3DS hiccups. So having it on a dedicated console would be pretty cool.
Absolutely. Dude, I love that so much. Those are some of my favorite video games, so that'd be awesome.
A collection like that, though, would be so much more intimidating than Mario All-Stars, where you just pop in, grab some stars in a game, hop in another game, grab some stars. It'd be which game do I even play? Because it'd be really hard to dedicate yourself to a bunch at once, and you probably get so confused at wait, so which one? Which game did I have this item in?
Yeah, that's true.
You're trying to make an armor set, be I thought I already got this. Oh wait, that was in the other game.
Yeah, that's why I think maybe a dedicated release for each game would be better, because you're gonna be pumping in at least 200 hours to complete it probably. So, and then we'd have you could revive the online life, which would be really nice.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, 3 Ultimate and 4 Ultimates online was so good. That was just a lot of fun in the 3DS days. That's how part of our YouTube community actually started, was a Skype group for playing Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate on 3DS.
Nice.
And then we ended up combining with the dLifeHD channel, and that's how I got involved. But yeah, that was a good way to bring a community together, and seeing that redone would be amazing. But I think it'd be good as they did Resident Evil, which is putting them out individually on the Switch, and then but that was only digitally, and then they did put a couple of them on one cart, and maybe they could just do like a limited physical release for people who actually are really involved in the franchise, and then have those digital versions. That's sort of wishful thinking. I think they're more so focused on the future of Monster Hunter. It's interesting because Monster Hunter has changed so much, but compared to the progression of other franchises, like especially up into World, the games were very similar with each release, and the formula worked. So that's how they could get away with having the games be very similar game to game. Mm-hmm. But I think that's why we haven't seen like a major remaster for the first game or games from the second generation, because
you can't.
A lot of them.
I don't think you can remaster the first game. Like you'd have to fully remake it at that point. Like if you wanted it to be in Kokoto Village and like kind of like the same flow of what the original game was, there's a lot of quality of life improvements that need to be brought in. Like people wouldn't accept that game anymore. Yeah. It's not like bringing over Crash Bandicoot or Spyro, which are very simplistic games, and so like even if there's like certain quality of life improvements not in there, they still have their charm and simplicity, so it doesn't matter. Monster Hunter it's like playing the old games is fun in certain ways, but the quality of life is like dog water. You can't do it, in my opinion.
Hey, well, they're gonna map the sword controls in Skyward Sword HD to the stick, so it could work.
For Skyward Sword? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if
true.
you saw that, but that.
Oh yeah, because they do that in Monster Hunter, eh?
Yes. Oh man, that was the weirdest part of that whole game to me. I'm glad they changed that.
I'm not a big Skyward Sword fan.
I've never played it. I know Sam has, but I've never played it, and I'm going to play it for the first time when it releases this summer on Switch. So we'll see what I think. I'm pretty open when it comes to games. I mean, hey, I beat Super Mario Sunshine in 2020, so nice. I think I can do anything at this point.
Definitely.
All right, moving right along, let's just go into our history with the franchise as a whole before we start getting into Rise discussion. Sam, since you're sort of new to the franchise, do you want to just go through your train of thought as you've seen the franchise evolve in popularity and what you're feeling towards Rise as it's coming up here really soon?
I mean, I can tell you which games I've played.
Sure.
And how I felt about them. It won't take long. I actually played it before you, if you remember.
Yes.
And then you just became a bigger fan much faster. But back when the 3DS was my only console, I think it was I got an email from Nintendo saying, "You've been chosen for the Monster Hunter 4 demo." And I was like, oh, sweet. So I tried playing it. It wasn't very fun by myself. But then later down the road, it became public, and then a couple of guys got it, and we played it more then. And then I really enjoyed it. Definitely. And then later down the road, Generations came out, and it really interested me because it had new 3DS compatibility with the C-Stick and everything, so I was interested in that as well. But I never did get that one just because I just hadn't really wrapped my mind around difficult games at that point. And so if something didn't make sense to me immediately, then I just had a hard time playing it. Which is why JRPGs intimidated me too. I was like, I don't know, I just don't get that level up, all that level up stuff. But then I remember you got really into that, and then when you got World, that was when I started to be like, okay, this looks really cool, because instead of you playing it on your DS where I couldn't see, I could actually watch you play it on your monitor. So I was like, that actually looks really cool. And then you sold your Xbox, so that was kind of dumb.
That did happen.
But later down the road, once Rise got announced, I had just purchased Generations finally, not Ultimate, but the 3DS version for $5. So you can't beat that. And so I've played that. That's actually the first game I've really extensively played. Although, honestly, you could play it for like 20 hours and still be doing the tutorial missions. So
yes, that's very true.
But anyway, yeah. So that's really been my introduction to the series. I would say has been playing Generations extensively because I got really back into my 3DS after my sticks on my Switch started drifting like crazy. I was like, all right, I'm going back to my 3DS. So I played Generations a lot. And yeah, now that I've played the demo for Rise, I'm very hyped for it. It got announced right as I had just started playing Generations, so it felt like good timing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's definitely good timing.
And not only that, one of the other things is just I've gotten very into Capcom this year, or last year really, because I started playing Resident Evil extensively. And so I played all the Resident Evil games, and then started playing Street Fighter as well. So that's also another reason, is just being interested in Capcom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're such a great company.
They're like Nintendo on steroids when it comes to making great decisions and then making terrible decisions.
Yeah, that's very true.
My most recent gripe with them is I purchased Resident Evil 4, 5, and 6 collection on Switch. And not only is that already a weird decision because they have 4 on the cart and then 5 and 6 are just downloads, so it's like, why did I even buy this physical? But 5 and 6 have these very similar looking icons on the Switch where they just have like a creepy looking 5 and a creepy looking 6. And then 4 is just like a still image of the main character with no logo or anything, and it just makes me... it's just terrible. And that's the best game in the series, arguably, so it's just terrible.
I just replayed through 4, actually. It was a lot of fun.
That's like one of the main Capcom franchises I really haven't gotten into. I mean, I know a fair bit about it because of it being so popular, and then you've gotten into it, Sam. But I need to start from the beginning and go through them.
It's definitely a Capcom series. It wouldn't be Capcom if it wasn't super intimidating to newcomers.
I mean, yeah, definitely. Well, that's interesting, and I'm glad that you have been converted over to playing Monster Hunter. And I know we're gonna have a great time in our server getting hype for Rise and doing multiplayer nights. Because that's part of how we started. I've got a lot of great memories of jumping on Skype and doing Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate and Generations when that came out, and then doing Generations Ultimate in our Discord server when that got started. And even playing World in our Discord server, and then now we're moving on to Rise. So, what about you, SuperRAD? You wanna? I mean, I know you've been with the franchise for a fair amount of time now, so you wanna go into sort of how you got involved with it?
I started on the PSP with Freedom 2. Like I was looking. I've told this story a lot, but like I had a PSP and I had a couple games for it. I think I had like this weird futuristic Harvest Moon game, and I had Daxter, which was a fun game. And I was looking for something new, and I think I saw Freedom 1 or Freedom. I think it was Freedom 1 I saw first, like just the original Freedom, and it like really interested me. And I think I tried to play it at one point. I like rented it or something, and I didn't get it. And then I bought Freedom 2. And I really didn't get it because you have to like fight a Tigrex, and it's insane. I don't even know if I made it to the Tigrex at that point. And then I played Freedom Unite and still didn't get it, which is funny because like Freedom Unite's one of my favorites. And finally, I had people to play with for Try because I had a group of friends that wanted to. I had a group of friends that wanted to play it with me, and I was like, okay, I'll grab Try. So I think I got it used, and I went through all of the multiplayer with like you have to unlock the longsword, but once I did, I had like a paralysis longsword that I played, and that's what made me a longsword main. And then I went on to like go through like all of the multiplayer with my friends, and then finally I later on in my life I like really got it into the series with 3 Ultimate once the Wii U was out, because I wanted to get a Wii U, and they had a what do you call it? They had like a package deal. It was like a Monster Hunter. It was like a black Wii U, and it would come with Monster Hunter and with a Pro controller. So I ended up getting that. Yeah, that was really nice. So that's what got me into the series, and I've been playing it since, basically.
Dude,
I said I've been playing it.
You've been
since
playing what
recently?
Like
I went through 3U, 4U.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
World, and then Iceborne came out, and I didn't even play Iceborne at first. And then I got the PC version, and I ended up getting Iceborne. And now I'm just waiting for Rise.
I never played Iceborne, actually, because, as previously mentioned, I played World on my Xbox, and then I sold my Xbox to... I'm mainly a Nintendo fan. I branched out some. In fact, I plan on... I play some PC games. I plan on buying one of the new Xboxes, but I literally bought my Xbox just to play World, and then I sold it after I beat it.
That's rough.
So I kind of regret that, though. I branched out so much from my Nintendo comfort bubble to play a lot of great games on my Xbox. So, and I still kept all my games. I have all my games. So I plan on, being able to play them again when I buy a Series X or so later. But yeah, so I never got to play Iceborne. I did watch basically a full playthrough on Twitch, though, and so I know exactly what happens. But yeah, what's your favorite
Ultimate,
Monster Hunter game that you've played?
Easily 3 Ultimate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another 3 Ultimate guy, yeah.
I do.
So you like Moga Village?
I like Moga Village. I like the art
is
style
great.
of that game. I think the main thing the game has going against it is the bloom effect that they put into it, and the water combat. A lot of people want water combat to come back, but as someone that has been revisiting the series recently, I'm a firm believer that water combat was a bad idea.
I mean, considering how many changes the game has made and how far it's come as a series, I wonder
they could
if
do it
they
better
could
for
do
sure.
it good.
It's like it's
I don't
possible
know
to
if they
do
could.
water combat better. It's just they did it very poorly.
Yeah, moving with the camera was really
you get
weird.
used to it.
But I know you hate Goble.
I hate any monster where you really have to, except for Cedius. I hate most monsters where you really have to fight them in the water. Like the nice thing about Legaia Cruise is that it'll go on land. And the nice thing about Ivory Legaia Cruise, which is one of my favorite monsters, is that it's always on land. It's a land-based Legaia Cruise. Yeah, the one nice thing about the water combat is that you can actually chase after a Plesioth instead of waiting for it to swim around for a bit before jumping out onto the land.
That is very true. That seems like in Generations Ultimate, when it goes to in the Ruined Pinnacle fighting a Plesioth, it's just always in the water. Like more so than in the Misty Peaks. Like it's just constant. I'm gonna get out. But yeah, I really like Flooded Forest. It's one of my favorite maps. I mean, I love Royal Ludrith and fighting Legaia Cruise there, and so I'm really excited to see that back in Rise.
Me too.
Especially without the water combat. But
I
I have a feeling.
Sorry, I was just gonna say the new ones look really.
Sorry, go ahead.
The new version of Flooded Forest looks really cool.
Yeah, it's definitely super muddy, like Shrine Ruins, which I'm not a huge fan of. I think Shrine Ruins is one of the ugliest maps in Monster Hunter.
I actually said
ever
something similar about how like they look similar, which I thought was kind of lame. I agree with that.
Yeah, that they definitely went with more like a bright green clashing with brown, like look for Flooded Forest, and then Shrine Ruins is like kind of green and gray, like fully just gray. So there's a little bit of difference, but overall they look really similar. But then the new Volcano map just looks like the colors are just bursting forth, and it looks really good in that way. But I should probably talk about my history with the franchise briefly. Again, going off of what Sam said, he got access to the early version of the demo that they put out on 3DS, and I had to wait for it to come out for normal people. And I remember taking a peek at him playing it and thinking it looked really cool. Then booting it up for the first time and just really exploring it. And one thing that made me connect to it so well is not to say that Monster Hunter is all dinosaurs, but I mean the first thing you fought in that demo was Great Joggy, and I always liked creatures like that, fictional creatures, dragons and wyverns, and I had one childhood friend that also really liked those things. We like mystical creatures and just being boys and running out in the woods and stuff, and that was just something that we really enjoyed. And so seeing that feeling really compressed and put in a video game where it's very focused on the behavior of the creatures and the setting and culture surrounding the setting, and just having like a really fleshed out world that feels like it's breathing, even in the older games. Like seeing that in a game just made me fall in love with it. And so that when that demo came out, that same friend that I had also had a 3DS, and we both downloaded it, and we played that demo over and over again, waiting for 4 Ultimate to come out because we loved it. And there was actually a big blizzard. This was in 2015, and big blizzard that blew over our area here in the South in the United States, and which we don't normally get a lot of snow here. So all school was out, and it froze over, and it was all ice, and all we did was just stay inside his house with our 3DSs and hunt Great Joggy and Tetsukabra over and over
Didn't
again.
they come out with
and it was so much
second
fun.
demo later
And
that had Gormagala or something? Or was it in the original demo?
it was the same demo. It was the same demo, but if you they had you could select beginner or experienced when the demo booted up, and of course we just kept clicking beginner, and then it would give you Great Joggy and Tetsukabra, and so then we finally clicked experience, and our minds were blown when they had a third monster in the experience section. We were like, "What?
Yeah,
There's a third monster?" Yeah, they had 2 levels of Great
okay.
Joggy on that demo. It was like a low rank and a high rank, and so then I was like, "All right, well, I can't get 4 Ultimate. It's $40. I don't have $40. I'm just a kid," and so I went over and bought 3 Ultimate for 3DS, which did not have any online play for some reason, and no one else I knew had it, so I just and it was weird. 3 Ultimate's different in the sense that when you start up the game, you have to do things like rebuild the camp and get involved with the point system that they have there and do villager requests, and it was just super overwhelming. As a new fan, I'm like, wait, you can't just launch a quest and go to it? Like, there's a lot of preparation involved, and I played it a fair amount, and it was just, similar to your story with Freedom Second. It was just really overwhelming. And then I remember I managed to save up some extra money, and I went out and bought 3 Ultimate for Wii U, because I knew that it had the online play, and 4 Ultimate at the same time. And so there was just so much Monster Hunter to play at that time. So I transferred my save data back and forth between the Wii U and the 3DS constantly, because that was a function on the Wii U version, is there was just an easy way to transfer it back and forth. So if you want to play it on the go with your friends, you can do that. If you want to play it at the house, you can do that. And it was a lot of fun. I met I was fully playing with randos because I didn't know anyone who liked Monster Hunter and had a Wii U. I was a very limited amount of people. So I had a great time. The community wasn't dead even 2 years after 3 Ultimate had come out. There was people online who got me up to G rank, and I remember I grinded a Sand Barioth, which was a variant in the Sandy Plains, which I hope is back in Rise. I hope they add him because that would be awesome.
Oh, I thought you meant
Sand Barioth specifically? Yeah, well, yeah, that's what I was sort of going into. We got Sandy Plains, we got Barioth. Hopefully we get this variant because his armor set looked so cool, and that's what I wanted to go for. And it was the G rank version, and I remember I don't remember what it was. Maybe it was a ruby. I'm not sure, but it was some rare drop, and we just fought this G rank hunt over and over again. I think it took me around 25 hours to make the whole set. It like just the bad RNG and playing with noobs basically in G rank, people who didn't have good armor, not knowing what we were doing, and so I got that set done, and I still have it on my copy, and so yeah, then I was hyped for Generations, played that through. I actually ended up losing my save data on that because it saved to the SD card starting with Generations, and it got corrupt, so I lost all that save. And then I lost all my save to Stories when I was literally at the final boss door. I never got to beat Stories. And I was right ready to fight the final boss, and I was doing my final preparations, and then it just went kaput. So then when Generations Ultimate came out, I had to start it over. And a funny story there is that they kept saying that they weren't going to bring Generations Ultimate over to the West because it was out as Double Cross for so long, like about a year. And I was like, all right, I'm going to hold out. They're going to announce it. And finally, I'm like, all right, they're not going to announce this. So I ordered Double Cross, and the week I ordered it, they announced it. I was like, ah, man. So I played through all of the hub quests on Double Cross, all the way through again, since I did it on 3DS as well. And there's like, in Generations Ultimate, you have to talk to certain villagers to get certain quests to do the village quests. So, and it was all in Japanese, and I couldn't read it, and I didn't want to take the time to figure out who to talk to. So I didn't end up doing that. But then I got Generations Ultimate when Rise got announced, because like, all right, I already played through this game twice, really. And so I got an English copy of it and played through it all the way through the village quests and took down Valstrox. And my goal was to do it by myself and not have any help from people online. And so that was really rewarding to complete. And I did World too. Was really excited for World. And so yeah, now Rise is sort of that perfect mix for me, because I'm a really big fan of the older games. There's a number of things on World that turned me off. And I know it's a lot of the common gripes, sort of the basic weapon design, how cluttered the maps were, the decorations and charm debacle with RNG, and just sort of the general things. And it was interesting. Also, I had a lot of new people come in the game and just trash it for me. Just tell me I was like, on Xbox, people just tell me I was a terrible person for liking this game that they bought and hated. It was. I know that doesn't have anything to do with the game, but it was an interesting experience switching from Nintendo to Xbox for the first time to play. And since I was first introduced to the series, I've gone back and played Freedom Unite on PSP, and I bought a copy of the first game for PS2, and so I may not have started in the first generation, but I've gone back and gotten all the experiences that the series has to offer. And so I went a little long there compared to everyone else, but I'm really passionate about it. And so with Rise, I feel like I really like Ichinose. I like the games that he's put out. I mean, so much of 3 Ultimate that I really like, I feel like was the aspects from Portable Third that got combined with Tri. Like, Zenogre is my favorite monster, and I love Misty Peaks, and so I'm really hyped to see the more Japanese aesthetic in Rise, and the monster designs so far are really cool, and so we'll see how it goes, and how much of the dumbing down for newcomers affects my impressions of the game. Small things like getting rid of the hot and cold drinks. I mean, I know that's small, but I liked them. I know a lot of people are like, well, it doesn't really matter, but for me, it's like, well, I liked having that aspect of realism to them, and they weren't a huge part of the game, but it really made me feel like I had to prepare to go out and do these things. So we'll see what happens with these smaller changes that they're making to make it more friendly to newcomers. But that's sort of where I stand.
Yeah, prep work is pretty important in my opinion. And getting rid of the odd thing isn't a huge deal, but when they start to get rid of every little preparation thing that they consider unnecessary, that's when you start to see a bigger chunk taken out. That's my main issue with getting rid of hot and cold drinks. Yeah, definitely. And it's the design of Monster Hunter may be like an action RPG, but there's so many unique elements in the franchise that I feel like they're taking away, and eventually it's just going to become another generic RPG. Now, I don't think they will ever fully take away the elements that make it unique, but the more that they chip away at them, the more it becomes just another hack and slash game, I guess. And we'll have to see what happens in the future. I'm really interested to see where this game goes. But I guess, Sam, you kind of went into your feelings about Rise and how you've been hyped for it, but I wanted to discuss sort of our initial impressions from the first trailer, what we thought of it then, leading up to where we are now, about 2 weeks out from the game. So either one of you, if you want to just sort of go over what you were feeling when it first got announced up until now. For Rise, I don't know what I can't really recall what my initial feelings were. We kind of knew that they were going to announce something. I was making videos by that point, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I was I was God, oh yeah, I have to watch the trailer again, but like I was interested in the idea of the silk bind attacks the most probably, and what looked like an old school design. We pretty much knew that Ichinose was going to be working on it, and I generally prefer his design direction over Sugimoto's, so I was pretty happy about that. I'm obviously someone that has criticized World in the past for being a little too streamlined for my liking, and so I was hoping they would go backwards a bit in some of their design decisions. And if I guess over time it started to look like that was what was happening. Having played the demo, having fought all of the monsters, it is basically still World, with some added mechanics. It's still following like the streamlined design structure of World, which disappoints me a lot. But it's not like World wasn't a fun game. So I am looking forward to playing it at the very least, and I'm very happy that we have we've confirmed that there's the moveset customization, and Silkbind abilities basically function like Hunter Arts, which I enjoyed. So I am, and the maps. We have very simplistic maps again, even though they have high verticality for the wire bugs. They're very simplistic to get around, which I appreciate. So I'm happy about that. And the only thing I really dislike in the game is how it looks. I find the game is the desaturation that they're using in that game is incredibly unappealing in comparison to older games. Even World had more color in my opinion, and that game's like mostly brown.
Yeah, I felt the same exact thing. Other than the village, like the village is, for me, it looks great with all the reds and everything. I have a feeling that once we get into the Sandy Plains, though, because the Sandy Plains has like a lot more vegetation than other desert maps, and like it has like a watering hole area, some underground sections. So I really hope that they do something bursting with color, and I'm surprised that they went more with like the Shrine Ruins style of more like Japanese mountainous regions rather than the Misty Peak style, which used a lot of reds and greens. Like I would have much preferred something like that, because that's something that like Ichinose is more known for, is having more colorful, more goofy style characters and maps, and that's something I wish they would have leaned into. And I wonder how much pressure there was from anyone else developing the game. We got to make this more like World, and I don't know. It's interesting, but I guess my feelings were initially in that they showed off the first trailer for the game in a direct along with the first trailer for Stories 2. And it really blew me away. The Wirebug idea was very cool to me. I liked the idea of everything you see you can climb up, sort of touching into what Breath of the Wild did. I mean, that's there. Interestingly enough, I felt like World, even though you had things like the glider mantle and being able to climb a lot of different surfaces, it felt super grounded. Even though there was like multiple levels to every map, it was interesting because the maps were so much more cluttered and specifically designed, but I felt like I was constantly grounded somehow. And that's something that 4 Ultimate changed from 3, having so much verticality in the mounting system, and you can jump off of everything. And I think Rise is more leaning into that, especially with the Wirebug. You can climb up on such a high cliff. I think that's super cool. So that's the one main difference from World to Rise that I think is going to be a lot of fun. And overall, honestly, the biggest save for me is separating Hub and Village
too.
quests.
I'm glad that they decided to bring that back.
Yeah, it adds more depth to the adventure that you go on. I mean, for me, hopping in with the friends and doing quests was so much fun, but then, I have my own solo time, which you could still do in World, but I felt like there was a lot of pressure to do the quests multiplayer, the single player quests multiplayer for the story, and And like with the watching the cutscenes thing, it just
I hated
was,
the
it was
cutscenes.
weird.
I hated the cutscenes. I hated the characters. I hated the handler especially. And all they had to do was make it so you could skip them. I think.
Yeah.
I might be wrong. No, you couldn't even skip them on PC. I don't think. It's awful. Yeah.
That's weird. But yeah, the monster design also has me really hyped. Things like Tetranodon and Almadron, I think that's their names. Those two guys particularly. It's just, it looks like so much fun, and all the weapon and armor designs are looking really good so far. I'm really pleased with the designs they've gone for. What about you, Sam? What do you think? Like chronologically, what's your feelings been so far?
Well, like I said, I think having just picked up Generations was pretty hype for me because I was getting into it and enjoying it, but it was definitely hard to get into the multiplayer scene because you guys were kind of past that, and at this point everyone that liked Generations had already picked up Generations Ultimate, and I don't think anybody wanted to go back to the 3DS version to play it with me. So I had been kind of like considering picking up the Switch version for a while, but I was like, I was going to hold off because I had heard the bubblings of a new version being announced. And if there was something made for Switch, then I definitely would want to play that. So having it be announced so soon after I got into it was hype because it just was like, yes, I'm going to be able to actually start fresh with somebody.
Yeah.
And I knew that y'all were like way ahead of me in the game, so it was kind of nice to know we could start a blank slate and we would all be kind of learning the new systems together and also starting from square one. So even though you would definitely be better than me at the game by default, it would still be kind of nice to go into it with all the tutorials of Generations cleared out and just a blank slate.
Yeah.
So for me, it was I wasn't like you where I was like, oh, what monsters are they going to announce? Or, oh, what kind of new mechanics are they going to announce? I was just kind of like, yes, a new game. And I honestly, like, whatever's in it, it's not really going to faze me as much because I'm not
Didn't
super
matter.
into the series like you are.
Right. Then that's awesome. And
It looked, to me, though, the like kind of blend between the older and the newer games felt like a really perfect place for me to jump in.
Yeah, I think that's true, and I think it's going to be really user friendly, but at the same time keep that style where the veterans will carry the newer players if that's what they're interested in, and it's not something to be ashamed of. Like, hey, hop in and we're gonna teach you how the game operates, and that's something that I really appreciated when I started 3 Ultimate on Wii U, is people helping me and teaching me how the game works and saying, hey, this status element does this, and you need to use this weapon. And I'm really excited because we have a couple new people in our Discord server that have never played a Monster Hunter game and played the demo and are hyped. And so I'm just really excited that, again, similarly with World, I'm on the other end now where I have more experience with the games and I can play with new people and explain it to them. And I'm just super excited for that. I think that's a lot of fun, and that's one aspect about Monster Hunter that I like, that I think carries over through all of the games, is that no matter where you are, like if you're new, you're old, the game is still fun, and it's just as much fun as it is when you started it, because you're either getting things explained to you and learning the style of the game, or getting to pass that information on to somebody who's new. I think that's a super cool aspect of it. I think we're gonna soon be wrapping this whole thing up. We were gonna discuss our plans on playing Rise, but I think we've sort of gone into that. I've actually been doing a gaming fast right now. I'm got pretty burnt out on just playing games. So this is day 14, I think. So 2 weeks into not playing video games, just because I'm gonna go out. I'm going to go to GameStop, I'm going to pick up Rise, and that's going to be the first game I've played in 25 days. And it's going to be a good way to ease back into games. So that's sort of my approach. I just, like I said, I haven't been finding a lot of interest in playing games, and it just happens when you get overdone with something that you've been doing for a long time. So it's a good sort of cleansing process before I go in and I binge this game. So that's sort of my approach. Hey, SuperRAD, did you play the Magnum Hollow fight on the demo? Okay, I was thinking you were. I was working last night, so I wasn't able to tune into that. But I'm skipping that, obviously, waiting to play it for the final game. But just briefly,
they obviously
what'd you
made it
think of
artificially difficult for the demo. They warned about that. They made a lot of its moves very high damage, and like some of them one shots depending on your armor set. So if you go into it, it's going to give you the. I was explaining this on stream. If you're a veteran player or you've put in like a decent amount of time and you follow Capcom, you know that they did this on purpose and that it's not going to be like that in the final demo. Mm-hmm. It's still fun. I haven't beaten it yet. I'm going to try and beat it in my free time, solo. But
they did that with Nergigante in the world demo as well. Yeah, they gave like 15-minute time limit on Nergigante.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't like that personally. Like I don't mind. Like I'm gonna beat it. It's whatever. But for people that are casual players, especially when they're streamlining the game to bring in new people, and you put in like a monster that difficult that doesn't actually reflect what the game's going to be like, it's weird to me because I feel like you're going to be giving them the wrong idea, and they're going to not want to play it now because they realize how difficult the game's going to get. But it's not going to get that difficult except for maybe some optional quests depending on what they decide to do.
Yeah, that is weird. I thought the same thing. I watched a couple videos on it, not playing it myself, and it seemed, that's interesting that they went with that style. I don't know what the thought behind that is, why they're doing that, but I mean, he's basically just a fiery Zinogre. That's what I think, and that makes me excited because I like Zinogre. So. All right, wrapping this up, let's just briefly discuss Stories 2. They recently had the second trailer, which announced some new stuff. I can say for myself, I am very excited for this, especially some of the screenshots they put on the website. They've announced... Oh, dude, go check them out. I mean, they showed off a village that looks like similar to Moga Village. Like it's a wooden structure built out on the water like a fishing village, so... That is very exciting, but I think I have really not necessarily burnt myself out, but I have tuned into every bit of news and watched people make videos on the same exact news over and over again for Rise to get excited for it. But I think I'm going to take the complete opposite approach, and from here on out with Stories 2, just ignore every single thing and go in really fresh with it. But what do you guys think? I mean, Sam, I think it's going to be more up your alley, being turn-based and different.
Definitely, and especially just because I prefer games I can play on my own anytime.
Right.
So,
and also now they're giving them the option to do multiplayer quests, like not just fighting each other, which was a really cool aspect of the first Stories, was being able to do battles against each other. But now, actually going out in the field and doing quests. But I mean, like the main attraction is the single player. So SuperRAD, I watched your live reaction video that you put out on it. So I know that you've got some hype for this game, right?
I'm more excited for Stories 2 than I am for Rise, to be honest.
I've heard a lot of people say that, and I'm not gonna blame you at all because they proved that like Monster Hunter can work as a turn-based game with Stories, and from what I played of it, not getting to beat the final boss, I loved it, and it was really cool. And to see it with a little bit more power being on the Switch compared to the 3DS, I think this is going to be really
amazing.
Something
it's a great
special.
Game.
So.
I really enjoyed the time I put into the original Stories. I pretty much played it just for the video that I was making, but I ended up liking it way more than I thought I would. So I'm expecting Stories 2 to go even further and be a fantastic entry in the series.
Yes, yeah, definitely. I have to say the game's probably going to suck though because Naviru.
I don't mind Naviru. I actually liked him, especially because he could go like basically Super Saiyan. I thought that was cool.
Man. Oh. Yeah, that's true. it's probably just because I watched most of the terrible anime they put out for stories, and he just got so annoying in that show. And now he has an English voice, which is it sounds so weird. But yeah, honestly, from what they've showed of the general story,
it's looking cool.
I'm excited,
You know,
I can't believe we're getting both.
Than it was in the original game. The original game covered some interesting topics, actually, like riders versus hunters, and basically manufacturing stuff to be able to control monsters, which I thought was really interesting. Also, I always found it really funny that monsters would give you bonuses if you wore their armor while fighting alongside them, because that why would they appreciate that? I always thought that was really weird.
It's been a while since I've played it, and I don't even remember that being a thing.
So you have kinship
that's
points,
hilarious.
right? And if you use if you want a monster to do a specific attack, you have to spend kinship points in order to do it. But if you have like a Jaggy, or not a Jaggy, but if you have like a Velocidrome and you're wearing Velocidrome armor, the kinship cost will be less than it was originally. But that's so weird to me, because like you think the monster would be a little pissed off that you're carving out its like brethren and wearing their skin, you know?
Oh
yeah, that's pretty funny.
You're wearing my brother.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
easy,
give you
whatever.
free
Maybe they're just
attacks.
scared. Maybe they're like, okay, well, yeah,
Okay,
do
fine.
whatever.
Take all the attacks.
don't
Take
kill
them
me,
all.
yeah.
I'm scared. Don't kill me.
Yeah.
Don't make a sword out of me. And now we've got, speaking of swords, now we've got, I believe we're gonna have all the weapons in the game. I mean, it doesn't make a huge difference.
We don't know
but
that.
It's still cool.
Do we?
We
saw bows. We saw bows and hunting.
I mean,
horn.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah. I think we're gonna get them all. That's sort of my assumption. We don't know 100%, but I hope so.
I mean, I would like longsword.
Charge blade.
So, yeah.
You know.
Nope.
Was
It's
longsword not even in
greatsword,
stories?
Sword and shield and hammer. I think that's it.
That's so weird. Again, it's been a bit since I played it, which makes me excited because I actually got the mobile version of it and it didn't have controller support.
If you want to play it with a controller, I would suggest just download. I don't know if you have it on iPhone or Android. That's a little bit harder, but I have it on Android. I just use an Android emulator on my computer, and then you can use you can play it full screen HD with a controller. It's pretty nice.
Well, I just literally 2 months ago just switched from Apple to Android, so I could buy it again for the third time.
If you want to play it at its
that.
best, I think that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, that sounds great. Because I can just connect an Xbox controller and do that. Well, I think we're going to wrap the discussion up here. It has been a lot of fun and really good to sort of get some excitement off my chest. I actually, honestly, I was really excited for Breath of the Wild, but I have not been this excited for a game, and I'm really happy that they've surprised me that much. In fact, I was Googling last night the best meditations to ease excitement because it's all I can think about. Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know what it's been about this particular game, but I don't know.
Well,
I mean,
I would be excited if the game I was waiting for on a console came 4 years after the life of the system,
That's true. Yeah. So,
I mean, I got lucky. Breath of the Wild came out on day one.
I mean, Breath of the Wild 2.
I got a lot of games I was hyped for have come out at this point, so I can't imagine waiting this long for something.
Well, I had World in the
playing
meantime.
playing through 3
And
has been taking
Monster
up a lot of
Hunter-
my time, so that's nice.
Yeah, I've been enjoying it and seeing you take on that. I watched your highlight reel that you put out, I think yesterday or 2 days ago, of taking on an Ivory, and you got that.
Try,
got a Rathalos Ruby. Yeah, that was
so
awesome.
happy about that.
Yeah. All right, well, let's wrap it up here. Thank you so much, SuperRAD, for coming on. It has been an honor to have you on this long form episode, and thank you for everybody that has tuned in and listened this far. If you're excited for Rise, drop a comment, and I believe we are going to start releasing this long form series as a podcast I don't think the first one has gone up as a podcast yet, but we are going to try to get that up with Anchor soon. But yeah, it's been a very good discussion, and we will see you guys
Thanks
later.
for having me.
Goodbye.
See you later.
Bye.